I want to have a look at another one of these Chinese 177 caliber pellet guns that I have. This one is a little bit cheaper of a model than the Gold Cup was. It's just like this. It uses like an underbarrel cocking lever, and this one here it's just like a folded piece of sheet metal that's been formed into a tube, and there's a little plastic end on it. This is a very low end gun compared to the Gold Cup, which I did in my last video. But this is the pieces here, the sight. This is a very cheap sight. Most of the pieces on this gun are not milled parts like on the other gun. Most of the pieces here are just like stamped sheet metal, just very, very cheap. There's the front sight, the cocking lever, these extra pieces here. Even the rear sight seems to be some kind of a folded metal. And I'll flip it around. It's got those same sort of cheap sling swivels on it. Very cheap the way they're screwed in there. I added an AK sling to it myself because it fits in there perfect. And the trigger is, again, just a stamp, very cheap piece. I'll just show the markings, and like here's the rear sight, which it's okay. Like it's very cheaply made, but it's like it should hold up for shooting. And then it's barely visible, the numbers on there, the increments. And here's the markings. It's called the Model Arrow, made in China with the various Chinese. I figures I have no idea what they mean. And then the rear end, the whole guts of this gun are held in with just a plastic plug like this. I guess it's okay. I don't think it's unsafe or anything, but it's just a very cheap way of doing this gun. It actually, I kind of like the way it looks. It looks a little nicer than the other gun. And I've heard people refer to these as trainers for SKS or Mosin rifles, like sort of like military trainers, but I am really seriously doubt that they have anything to do with military, because first off, the civilian markings on them, it isn't designated by a type the way the Chinese military firearms usually are. I think the confusion is that it just sort of resembles a Mosin or an SKS because they have that typical cut in the like the finger groove in the stock, and then also the shape of the stock, which actually looks more like a Mosin than an SKS. It's got that sort of club shape to it, and I seriously doubt that the Chinese were using these in the 1980s or 90s to train people to use Mosin rifles. I mean, they had trillions of rounds of 7.62 ammo, and they weren't in a war situation, so I don't see why they would need 177 caliber pellets. But I don't know what ownership of firearms, like how you can own a firearm in China, what their laws are. I would just think that this is the style, like the Eastern style of firearms. And also, if people were coming from the military at that time, they'd be familiar with a firearm that is like this. If they were using it for pest control or small game hunting or something like that, they would be familiar with a gun, the way the sights work. Like if they came from a platform like an SKS or an AK, this would be familiar to them. That's why they kind of look like this. It really doesn't have anything to do with them being issued into the military, but they do, they look cool. So really there isn't a whole lot to say about it other than it's quite powerful. It's a quite powerful gun for what it is, but it's a little more crude than the Gold Cup is, and it also doesn't feature that safety. This one is one of the like finger pincher types. You could find these, I found a couple of them. Like I've come across, I think about 3 of them just in the last few years, and I wouldn't pay very much for them because I say I've come across them. They're not very rare, but they are kind of a cool firearm. Like there's something a little bit different, but I would not associate this with a military firearm. It just is a .177 caliber pellet rifle, whether it's for say small game or for plinking or something like that. That's what this is for. It's just a civilian market item. So anyways, I just thought I'd make a video on that. So thank you for watching.